Excuse the interruption. Can all the grade 7 students please make their way to the gymnasium?
So my name is Brooke. I'm one of the co-founders of Colur Worthy, and I'm here to talk a little bit about my experience with mental illness and addiction.
I'm Nikki. I'm here because I'm dying. This is one of my last chance to show the world who I am and what addiction has done.
My name is Jackie Paul. I'm here to talk about mental health.
My name is Alex Russer.
My name is Kyra Monroe. Some people know me as Kyra Miller. I have been married for 5 years. I'm here for a couple of reasons. I have suffered from anger issues, has been my biggest thing, depression and anxiety.
When you're suffering with anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder has 5 components. Any one of those is really challenging to deal with. Your fight or flight is going continuously. Just driving here, I had to pass a vehicle on a curve. Well, I couldn't do it. I couldn't put myself in that much stress to pass a vehicle on a curve. That's a pretty straightforward, everyday occurrence. And after driving for 40 years, I still can't pass a vehicle on a curve. That's just one small example of how anxiety can sort of negotiate your path.
I have a head injury now, so a brain injury, but the memories that I can still cognitively remember from when I was little was a mom who didn't understand me. And I was daddy's girl, but like I kept having memories like 10 years ago, and I'd ask my mom about them. She would say, no, that never happened, and it was to do with some physical and sexual abuse, and then I found out that it was true. She finally admitted it. So by the time I was 12, I think I was running away from home because there was my mom was physically abusive by then, and she would have the cops bring me back, and the endless tale. And then at 14, I ran away from good and became pregnant just before my 15th birthday. And I had my son, my oldest, and 11 months later I had another son. And so I hadn't even begun to process, I didn't have a chance to process anything that had happened beyond then. And when I was pregnant with my youngest, my gallbladder was going, and they had me on a pretty stiff painkiller medication because they couldn't take it out until he was born. So when he was born, 10 minutes later they took my gallbladder out, and I went home sick from the Dilaudid pills they were giving me. And that's when I found heroin to make it better. Just before my 18th birthday, I found out that my grandfather had molested my oldest son. And I was not in the frame of mind. I called him over and I took matters into my own hands. I called the police right after and said, you need to come and get me. There's somebody hurt really bad here. And then I went to jail for 7 years.
I've dealt with mental illness since I was 7 years old, so before my mental illness set in, I was a very young child, so I was just living the life of a very young child. I don't really remember much of what life was like before my mental health got bad. As for my addiction, I would say that before my addiction, I was an athlete. I was a really great student. I was very creative and just had this zest for life and wanting to help people all the time. And I feel like I'm back at that place now, but going through addiction for 8 years really took all of that away from me.
I was introduced to crystal meth at when I was 19, 20, and that was one of the things that I remember from school was the ad campaign that went out. It was like, you know, crystal meth, not even once, which is I did it the one time. Me and my friend tried it, and we did it for the whole night with a couple other people, and the next day it was like, that was terrible. Like, I didn't like that at all. It made me feel really bad, and like, I don't want to do that again. But the next time that I saw those friends or went to their place, they were like, oh, you want to do that again? It's like, and it was just gone. Like, everything that was like, no, I don't want to do that again, like, that wasn't even fun. It was like, maybe it'll be better this time. And I went on with the maybe it'll be better this time. Wow, that was terrible. Oh, maybe it'll be better this time. For a few months until I realized that it was like, I'm in. Like, I couldn't say no. So that went on and that was like, I gave up everything else. Like, I didn't smoke weed anymore. I didn't drink or do any other drugs really, unless it was the only thing available, and it was like, it was meth. Like, if I would spend all my money on it and just be awake for days on end, 4 or 5 days at a time, no sleeping, no eating, just doing drugs and sitting at home. Which obviously was very toxic. There was, once again with that drug, a certain point where I realized that I was stuck. Like, that I couldn't get out. Like, that it was a problem. And I knew that it was a problem, and I eventually had my friend come to me, and she stayed with me for a week and kind of brought it to my eyes that, like, this is unsustainable. You can't keep doing this, or, well, you're probably going to die. So that was, you know, like, okay, yeah, like, I want to quit. I know I need to quit. Like, this is what I have to do. And when I was, like, when I was high, when I was using, not sleeping, a lot of time spent alone, and I would know, like, okay, this is it, like, I'm done. And then the next day or whatever, whenever I ran out, I'd be like, okay, that's it. And I would be good for probably until about halfway through the next day. And then it was just all of this list of motivators that I had. It was like, this is why I had to quit. It was just gone. Like, I couldn't remember why I wanted to quit. It's like, well, I don't want to. I don't want to quit. Why am I doing that? This is fun. And then I would, you know, get some more and do it again, and immediately back into, how did I get here? Like, I just said I was going to quit. Yeah. So that's how much of a grip it gets on your brain.
For me, what I'd really like to share is that it's frustrating if you're associated or living with people that don't understand what a mental illness is. It's one thing for somebody could say that they're having an off day, so they don't want to go to the grocery store. People that suffer with a mental illness, when they have an off day, it completely takes away everything. Like, their day is done. Like, I seen your post there where you want to curl up in a blanket, and sometimes that just needs to happen. Growing up or being involved with someone that doesn't understand mental illness is frustrating, but just remember that there are other people out there who do understand your mental illness. There's the support out there. So instead of thinking that you're alone all the time, I would encourage you to reach out to other people that at least they don't necessarily have to be going through the same things that you're going through, but at least they would understand. I know I have my support group. I go to my best friend, my older sister, who's been like my rock through everything. She was the person I ran to when things went too far and I didn't know what to do anymore. So I am my grandparents now. If I didn't have my best friend, my sister, and my grandparents, they're my rock. And my husband's the one that took me out of everything that I went through. If I didn't, honestly, if I didn't meet Corey and all the things that we've gone through with our fighting and everything, but if I didn't meet him, I know that I would be in a way worse position than what I find myself in now, which I'm quite lucky and content now, but he's the reason I stopped drinking. He's the reason I stopped with alcohol. He's the reason I stopped drinking. He's the reason I stopped with my drugs and my late night partying and doing other things I really should have been doing. He gave me my kids, and without my kids, I can say that I probably wouldn't be here anymore, because I still suffered with suicidal thoughts when him and I were initially together, but my kids are probably what hold me together on a regular basis. Nothing really beats them coming up and screaming mom and giving me hugs and kisses. It's my own form of medication. But what I would like to say is, don't give up on who you are. It's a battle no matter what illness, whether it's mental illness, addiction, or really anything that you think you're alone with. Just keep pursuing what will make you happy. My big thing is, don't forget about yourself. You're equally as important, and none of it's your fault.
And then in 2006, I finally woke up and said, where's my life? What am I doing? Like, I can't do this anymore. I quit and threw my methadone at the pharmacist because he wouldn't bring me down anymore, and I was like, I'm done, I don't want it. And then I got hit by a car. And I was in a coma for 8 months, and I woke up and they had the morphine going in me, and I couldn't talk. I had a trach, and I couldn't talk, and I couldn't communicate, and I'm pointing, like, get that thing out of my arm. Get it out of me. What are you doing? And, but they wouldn't do it right away, so it was another addiction that I had to come off of as I was healing. And those were pretty dark days. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I managed to get through without using again. And considering some days now, even, the thought still lingers, you know. I don't know if that's because of the mental health issues or even just the pain, or maybe they're both. But, you know, the triggers are definitely there, and all I can do is reach out to my friends and know when I'm in trouble, when I'm a threat to myself, then I have to reach out. That's pretty much it.
My mental health has been impacted by my childhood. From age 3, I was abused, and for all of my childhood, it was really, really intense, and that intensity has never changed. There's no, with all the strategies that I've used, meditation, swimming, a healthy life, you can work on your mental health, but it doesn't go away. It doesn't fix. You continue to work on it, and when you stop working on it, that's when you have issues.
it seemed like after every relapse it would get worse. All of the adverse effects. The first time that I started, I would start to have like the hallucinations and day terrors after the third or fourth day of being awake. But after my most recent relapse, it was pretty much as soon as I got high, I would start to see things and see people and see people talking to me and people who weren't there and not being able to sleep, all of that stuff there. So it was pretty, it was a little bit of like it was just really bad, and a little bit of support from my family was just enough to get me out of it again. That was the last time. I've been clean now 3.5 years, 4 years in November. It's been getting, it's a lot better. The first few months are the worst for sure. It seemed a lot like when I was using, I was just fighting to get to the next day. It was just like, every day was just a struggle to keep going. And when I was in recovery, in early recovery, I was, still fighting every day just to make it through one day without getting high. And now it's, at some point I realized that it's just a lot easier now. I'm not fighting anymore. Days go by a little bit quicker, a little bit better than they used to. I'm not thinking about it every day. For the first little while, it was every day. I was thinking about like my drug of choice. I was thinking about meth, and I would dream about it, and I would think about it all day. And it's it's a lot better now. It gets better. Like I still think about it every once in a while. The other night I couldn't fall asleep because for some reason I couldn't get out of my head. The imagery and the rituals of everything, like just all of that stuff. But yeah, it's gotten better. It's a lot better. I'm way farther than I ever thought I would be when I was using, for sure.
And that's when I turned to drinking, and that was my go-to was always alcohol. And then I did start cocaine for a while, and that was good for numbing the pain, but eventually it was, after so many encounters with almost killing yourself, and that was something I had also done, is I tried to commit suicide 4 times, and I ended up in the hospital twice because of it, just because I constantly thought that it wasn't good enough, and that I brought those things upon myself because I never asked for help or I told anyone what was going on, because I was young. I thought they were normal.
When I was in my early 20s, I made a real clear choice that my life was going to be about love and fun. And most people have no idea how much I struggle with mental health. They don't see it. Slap on some lipstick and away I go. And for the most part, I am really fun. But there's lots of times when I'm way over my head and not coping, and I've been hurtful and unkind, and it's simply because I'm way over the top my anxiety, and there's no taking that back. And that's exactly opposite of what my goal in the world is. So self-forgiveness is really the kicker to a happy life. If you can forgive yourself for being imperfect. I don't want to use the word flawed. That's so wrong, because our volatile emotions, our sad emotions, they're valid, they're real, they're part of who we are. So
I would tell myself that, like, the future is better than you ever could have imagined it. There's opportunities that come your way that you do grab onto, and it makes all of the hard times so much more worth it. And I would say to just harness the strength and the power that I know I have within myself to get through any hard moment.
Everybody sees me, they see my tattoos, they hear how I talk, and they just naturally assume I'm like this drug raving monster. The look in their face sometimes makes me laugh because I know who I am. I'm strong. I'm a warrior. When I love someone and my family or my friends, I love strong and hard. Like, you will not hurt anybody that I love and get away with it. I will protect anyone I care about. That I have feelings and emotions too. It's not just what you see or what society told you to think. I'm very smart. Like, people think, oh, she was in jail, she was a drug addict. However, I read and I research and I am not dumb and I'm not just some kid who got it. You know what I mean? And I think I'm funny too sometimes, maybe. But I'm a mom, first and foremost. And yeah, like, just because we're addicts, I'm recovered. And you know, people who look down on you usually have no idea what addiction or mental health has done. And then they look down on you for it, or they judge you for it, because, you know, their lives were so perfect. But in the case, like, you know, my mom used to look down so hard on me for it. And I'd say, well, what battles have you ever fought? What monsters did you ever have to kill to get where you are? Like, I'm way stronger because I fought those monsters and you did nothing. You know, I don't know really how to fully explain it, but I had more battles in my life than all those people looking down on me together.
If people knew me, they'd know that I'm not defined by my illness, that I work really hard to get as far as I've come now. I went from lying, cheating, and stealing all the time, that's who I was, and now I'm a dedicated mother. I'm a very hard worker, and I find that I'm a very loyal and loving wife.
I think that there's been so many opportunities that have passed by me because of whether it's my anxiety or my depression, or I have completely ruined opportunities for myself because of being in a manic state. And for addiction, I mean, I just wasn't even aware of any opportunities around me while I was going through addiction. So I think that, I mean, I've missed opportunities to go on trips. I've missed opportunities to get certain jobs. I've lost jobs that I really liked. I've lost friends. I really feel like my mental health and my addiction both have taken away a lot of opportunities that could have been amazing for me, that could have turned into something.
Working relationships. Working is really complicated for a well person, for somebody with mental health, anxiety, and depression. It's a minefield. It's a minefield because you really have to stand up for yourself. And if that's not something that you are comfortable doing, it's a real challenge.
The one thing that I really want people to know is that there is life after addiction. There is more to each person than their mental health. than their life experiences. I think it's really important that people know that there are more people in this world who suffer from a mental illness or an addiction than people who don't. And if we can all come together and talk about our experiences a lot more, I think that it will cultivate this community of compassion and understanding, and eventually we can just push out all of the ignorance and the judgment. I want people to know that they're not alone, most of all.